What is going on? We are back for another episode of the Media Captain podcast. I am Jason Parks.
And I'm Stephanie Parks. Just to give you a quick recap of who we are, we're sibling co founders of the Media Captain, a marketing agency, Durham Warehouse, an e commerce business. And we're coming back to you with another pod.
And we have a lot to dive into that we are excited about. Google and Meta recently released their earnings. So there are just a ton of nuggets based off of overall growth, revenue, what the stock was doing. So we're excited to get into that news. There's fluctuations happening with Google's algorithms. We're going to share a lot of insight as to what we're seeing with some client accounts of what's working. So let's dive into the marketing news.
Okay, I'll get started. Google generated $113 billion in revenue, which is up 18% year over year, and generated $34 billion in profit. Advertising revenue was up 13.5% year over year, and YouTube revenue was up 9% year over year. The stock was relatively flat after the earnings report as they committed to doubling capex to 175 to 185 billion in 2026. Now, a couple of things that I want to point out here. Number one, people have been worried about search dying, and based on this, we can see that this is clearly not the case. Advertising revenue was up 13.5% year over year. So people are still advertising on Google. In fact, advertising is going up. We're seeing that amongst our clients as well. We're recommending spending more. They're wanting to spend more on Google search. So search is not going anywhere. If there's one company that we feel confident on the investment in AI paying dividends, it's Google. There is so much going on with what they're doing with Gemini. We use Gemini and it's amazing. So Google's got it going on. We've kind of always felt this way, and nothing has changed there.
Speaking of Google, we are seeing major fluctuations in our client keyword rankings. This started back at the end of January, and as of this recording on February 6th, we're still seeing those fluctuations. Interestingly enough, on February 5th, Google rolled out a core algorithm called the Discovery Core Update. This will primarily affect news publishers versus traditional websites, but it's interesting because we've been seeing fluctuations across the board. So let me just talk to you about Google algorithms, these major updates. It's an area of it's something that I really specialize in. 3 or 4 times a year, Google rolls these major core algorithm updates, and it could positively impact your website or it could negatively impact your website. And if it negatively impacts your website, the only way of recovering is to fix the issue, which Google doesn't tell you about. So you have to figure out what was the reason that your rankings dropped. So these algorithm updates are very nerve-wracking right now. I'm sure there's a lot of news publishers on the edge of their seat, just based off of this recent rollout. But what's not being talked about, at least Google didn't publicly say this, is just that there's fluctuations across all types of websites. So for our agency, we're managing hundreds of clients, primarily small and medium-sized businesses. There have been fluctuations within here also. Our agency uses SEMrush's volatility tracker. So when I start to see some trends with keyword rankings, the volatility tracker tells me, yeah, there's really high fluctuation, which can align my theory. So nerve-wracking time right now. I tell businesses, don't panic if you're seeing a drop, and if you're seeing an uptick, don't celebrate just yet. You have to wait a few weeks till it all evens out.
And
Steph,
we have to give that advice to ourselves too, because we see volatility with our own business. So we try to make sure to follow our own advice, though it's easier said than done.
all right.
Um,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, well, Jason said he wanted to talk about Meta, but I'm gonna jump in here and take the spot from him. So Meta generated 59.89 billion in revenue, which was up 24% over year, and generated 22.77 billion in profit. Advertising revenue on this platform was up 24% year over year and represented 97% of total revenue. Meta also committed to nearly doubling capex to 115 to 135 billion in 2026. The stock jumped 10% after hours.
And really fast, Steph. So it's really interesting.
I knew I was going to get a cut in.
It's really interesting because when you look at Google compared to Meta, Google generated 113 billion in revenue. Meta generated 60. So Google is generating about twice as much revenue, but Meta isn't as diversified as Google. So you'll see that 97% of total revenue from Meta came from advertising, whereas Google, I mean, they have YouTube, which technically, yes, is still advertising, but they then have, their hosting and they have Waymo, and it's just much more diversified, but it's always fascinating looking at the numbers. But overall profit, I mean, Google generated 34 billion in profit, Meta 22.7. So Meta's margins is better than Google's.
And just to give you some background on what we see with our clients and what we're doing with them, we invest about 30% of our clients' budgets in Meta, but we're starting to increase more as we're just creating more really unique and authentic content. Generally, we find lead quality better on Google. And if you think about the intent behind each of them, that makes sense. But Meta is really big for awareness. In fact, we have a client that's taking away budget from TV and radio and putting it in Meta based on results.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I just met with this client 2 weeks ago, and they just said it's a medical practice with, I believe, 15 locations. We're running a lot of ads for them on Meta, and they said that they're just getting more and more people that are telling them that they're seeing their ads on Meta. And because of that, they are taking away budget from traditional and putting it towards Meta. But a takeaway from this is that a lot of times businesses get caught up in the conversion tracking within Meta. They're saying, well, how many people filled out a contact form? Or how many people called into the practice? But Meta really is awareness, and it's very similar conceptually to like TV or radio, and it boosts the overall awareness for your brand. So the brands that succeed with Meta, they do think longer term, knowing the conversion isn't going to happen the first time somebody sees your ad, and they're a little bit more patient with that. And Steph, you could go into also the last bullet point here on marketing news.
Wow. Thank you. Okay. So more than half of all ads on Meta's Instagram ran on its short form video reels product in 2025, which is up from 35% in 2024. When running ads on reels, it's really important to create TikTok style videos to align with the user experience. Really, these videos are and content is all about authenticity. I said it before. It's all about just creating that connection and personality. You can also on Meta create content based on where the ad is being served. So just that really personal touch is extremely important.
And for that, when we say you can create meta ads based on where the creative is being served, you can go into the meta ads manager, and you could, if you know that it's going to be a story, and stories are traditionally 15 seconds, you could create the ad based off of where it's being served. So create it vertical format, iPhone, 15 seconds, and that placement should be and can be different than just like a traditional feed. So a lot of times businesses just throw out one advertisement across all of the different like placements, but you can really customize that.
If you think, just as an example, this podcast, we might run an ad recording a video on an iPhone of just us giving a recap of what we're going to be talking about versus promoting, a longer form video. So that's just one example of how you can do something different based on where the ad placement is going to be. We're also seeing a trend that when you shoot iPhone content that looks a little less polished and a little, less not professional than a DSLR camera, it's actually performing better. And that goes back to just that authenticity and the personality. We have a client, Eaton Plumbing, and as with many places in the United States, there was a huge snowstorm a few weeks ago. And before that happened, we had them just record a video on their iPhone with tips on how to prepare for the storm. And they posted that. They have gotten hundreds of comments, likes. That video has really gone viral. So it's just showing their personality. It's a little less polished, just iPhone content that performed extremely well.
Yeah, and it was the owner of a plumbing company. He was like, "I'm not good on camera. I don't know about this." And we told him, "Just shoot the video and we'll give you a critique." He shot it. It looked fabulous actually because it was on the newest version of an iPhone. It was at his desk. There was a calculator on the desk. It just felt very authentic, and it was
The calculator really did it.
I love a good old-fashioned calculator. So those are the marketing news. A lot going on with Meta and Google's earnings. Let's dive into agency insights now. Agency insights is what we're seeing within our agency, and the goal of sharing this is to help you deploy similar tactics to help your business.
So I'm going to talk about Monday.com, which is the project management software that we use. It has been one of the biggest game changers, if not the biggest game changer for our agency. We have used this to completely overhaul and streamline our process and our communication. Frankly, I don't know how we stayed organized before we deployed it, which has been probably 5 years, right, Jason?
Yeah. No. We deployed it in 2017 or 2018, so we're probably going on. We had to have been one of their top 1,000 customers.
Yeah, so we've had it for a long time, and we basically, not only do we use it for internal communication, we build out boards for each one of our clients and give them access to the board. It's really nice. You can give guest access without having to pay for seats for those people. So we use it for everything. There's nothing that we don't use Monday.com for. It helps us keep track of our tasks and our work in a section called My Work, which has been a huge game changer. It allows us to keep track of all communication. It allows us to keep track of projects that we need to track hours on. I can't say enough good things about that platform and what it's allowed us to do from just an organization and communication perspective.
There's a feature within Monday.com called My Work, and we have hundreds of boards across our clients and development projects. And My Work pulls in tasks based off of the due date. And so it pulls for every person, you get to see what's due today, what's due tomorrow, what's due next week. And even though we have all of those boards, it pulls it into one centralized place. Literally has transformed our agency. So we couldn't recommend it anymore. All right, moving on. I want to talk to you about e-commerce product pages and e-commerce product category pages and how we're tackling this with AI. I helped a client go from 8% SEO visibility to 30%. So a lot of times on an e-commerce category page, it is a gateway page to all of the products. And a lot of times people just don't optimize this. They just have, images of all of the products, and then people click on that and go to the product page. We have we have a questionnaire, and a lot of times we get this by our agency uses Claude, and a lot of times we do research on the three top competitors that are ranking towards the top of Google. Um, we do an analysis of what they have on the product category page and what the client is missing. We then create a questionnaire for the client to complete, and based off of
And let me just cut in because oftentimes there's almost nothing on the category pages. It's just products, and that content on those pages is so important and makes a huge difference.
And for Durham Warehouse, our agency, for example, a brand that we carry is Elta MD. And a lot of instances, it would just have, we have 30 Elta MD products, and it would just have the picture of all of the products, and you could click into each individual product. But if somebody's just searching for Elta MD products, you want to rank for that, and it gets a lot of search. So that's what the product category page is. And by creating this questionnaire for the client is the expert in Google values expert content. So we get all of the information from the client. Sometimes it's filled out through a Google Sheet. Other times we just talk through the client and record the conversation. We then will take that conversation and create a visual mock-up using Claude. And it is unbelievable what it spits out. And by the way, we are incorporating aspects of the top competitors of who are ranking for the term that they want to go after. And we get this visual mock-up. We present it to the client. After that visual mock-up, we call it an AI mock-up, we then give it to our designer. Our designer polishes it more, makes refinements. The client signs off on that, and then it goes into development. So I did this.
And let me just give one important piece of advice here. If you own an e-commerce business and you are now like, oh, I need to create content for my product category pages, make sure you don't put all of the content at the top of the page. What you don't want to happen is have this really great, robust content, but then your actual products become kind of like second fiddle to that. So break it up, put a sentence at the top with a jump skip to read more that takes people to the bottom of the page. This makes sure, especially on mobile, that right when you hit that page, you can still see that the products are there, and then the rest of the verbiage is underneath.
So that's just something, and it really, like, we're going into the weeds here on e-commerce, but that applies to any business. That if you, what differentiates our agency is we know how to extrapolate information from the client, who is the product or service expert, and then we take that information and can obviously incorporate it onto the website. So that's really like the key takeaway from this, but it's really cool how we incorporate AI into the entire process.
Yep. And now we're going to jump to what we're excited about personally. I'll start. I probably have mentioned this before, but I have 3 kids, a almost 3-year-old son and twin 19-month-old daughters. They started daycare about a month ago, and for the first few weeks, my husband and I were dropping them off and picking them up together just to get everybody in. I'm really proud to say that now I can take them, drop them off, and pick them up by myself with a few caveats. The other day I went to pick them up, and they're all, you walk in the room and you kind of stand there and wait for them to turn around, and they get the biggest smile on their face. But then when you get the other siblings, they're all fighting over you. So I was in one of these situations where everyone was kind of like fighting over me. They all wanted to be with mom. And my son, my 3-year-old son, took my purse off of my shoulder. And I was just so caught up that I wasn't even paying attention. So I wrangle them all. I get their coats on. I get them in the stroller. I get them to the car. I put them all in, which is, a workout in and of itself.
More than a workout.
Yeah, more than a workout. And I go to start I get in the driver's seat and I go to start my car. Car's not starting. I realize that my son had thrown my purse somewhere in the daycare. I don't know where. And guess what's in the purse? my car keys. So luckily there was this other couple who had just pulled up, knew that they had one kid, the mom and dad were there. I immediately said, "All right, you don't need two parents for one kid. Can somebody please help me?" So the dad, who like my kids don't know, so that was probably a little scary, had to stay at my car while I ran in through like, the snow and ice. Am I exaggerating a little? Maybe. But he had to run in or I had to run in, run down the hallway, search for my purse, and then get back to the car. Because at that point, once all three kids are in, you can't take them out again. So I survived it, but most days I go without, all the drama.
You missed the best part of the story. Stephanie's twin daughters, if there is a stranger who is a male, they freak out. And so there was a male who they did not know that was looking over them. And when Stephanie came back to the car, the daughters were crying hysterically. And what did the dad say to you?
He said, "Wow, your girls really missed you."
Yeah.
And just, another fun tidbit is that for the first year of their life, pretty much anytime Jason walked in the door, hysterics. So it wasn't just this guy.
I told them, I say it takes some time to warm up to me.
Yeah.
So what I'm excited about personally, or just on a personal note, my family just got back from Arizona. We left Columbus, Ohio when it was -2 degrees and a foot of snow on the ground, and we went to Arizona. And normally, late January, early February, it might be like high 60s, which is really nice, but it was in the 80s. It was fantastic. We had a great time hiking. Our 2-year-old son was able to hike a mile. We took our daughter, what seems like out of Columbus, for like only the second time. So it was a great overall trip. But on a similar note, on the way back, the flight from Phoenix to Columbus is 4 hours. And I'm normally pretty good of just like being firm with my son of, hey, if you want dessert, you have to eat your meal. I was so tired at Sky Harbor Airport that he just wanted chocolate cake. And so I gave him cake, and he was absolutely wired. And then, my wife and I were just like, hey, we'll have him watch a movie and he'll fall asleep. Well, it just so happens that the Wi-Fi wasn't working on this Southwest flight, and we made a crucial parenting mistake of not downloading movies beforehand on our iPad. So for 4 hours, it was just chaos. And what will always be the lasting memory for me is my wife was changing his diaper and was in we were in like the very last row of the plane, and so she was changing him in the bathroom, and I just look over and my son comes running out of the bathroom and is halfway down the plane, and then my wife is like frantically chasing him. So if you are a parent or you're going to be a parent, the tip for you is do not feed your child chocolate cake before a 4-hour flight, and make sure that on your get an iPad and download movies beforehand.
Jay, I'm surprised you didn't talk about the ice rink.
I will save that for the next
Okay.
podcast.
Well,
That is,
we left you with a cliffhanger.
hopefully you gained a lot of insight on Google, on Meta, on what we're seeing for our clients. We appreciate you hanging with us, and we'll be back at it next week. I'm Jason Parks.
And I'm Stephanie Parks.